personal power, people positive, the community of connection. This is the Bob Jeswald Show.
Steve, how you doing?
I'm doing fine,
good.
thank you.
Steve, what city are you located in right now?
I'm in a town called Ashburn, Virginia. It's in Northern Virginia, about 40 miles west of Washington, pretty close to Dulles International Airport.
Okay, that part of Virginia. Okay, there you go. I got to tell you something. First of all, I love stuff, especially being a former reporter and editor. I know that you got creative. Your mind's got to be so creative because you've seen some crazy stuff. I can assure you. So sometimes when you see that crazy stuff, it makes you wonder. A sci-fi novel would be something that would just be so easy for you to do because I'm in the news business too, and we could tell some crazy, crazy stories. And to take this and put it in a new sci-fi novel, this will be pretty cool because your captivating book, Castle of Sands, is what we're going to be talking about today, delves into the world of artificial intelligence. Now, AI has been a really big thing. It's got people freaked out. The first time I ever saw anything with AI was on Jeopardy. And when they were playing, against the AI. So is this a little bit of your life experiences when you were in your journalist days and some reality too, I have a feeling, Steve?
Yes, it does draw on my days as a journalist and just life in general. I mean, when I think 2-3 years ago, when I started to put this story together, and I didn't even know for sure where it was going. AI was not at the forefront of my thinking because at the time, a lot of these experts, scientists, mathematicians, philosophers, all the people who were talking about AI, having their books published, being on TV, podcasts, you name it, were saying, well, if AIs ever become sentient, super intelligent and sentient, it will be so many hundreds of years from now that it's not going to bother us. And in the past 3 years, there's been this shift from maybe someday to 5 to 10 years and maybe less.
Scary. I mean, it's almost like AI is part of this whole thing. It's growing exponentially. I mean, you see, as you just said, the time frame, what seems so far away, you wouldn't even be able to touch. You respectfully put in here very pointedly, this is a real deal. And, especially with our civilization and the way people are doing, this could affect everything. I mean, the way we think, the way we bank, the way we do our everyday lives, and it gets in the wrong hands, Steve. That's the scary part as you talk about.
And it doesn't even take the wrong hands. What if we, for example, program a very powerful AI to protect the environment? Let's say that we give it that goal. Well, it may interpret that goal in such a way to say, these people, they're not very good for the environment. Maybe we don't want them. That's kind of an extreme case, but we already are seeing AI into our daily lives quite intimately in some cases. We've seen, the chatbots become very popular. One of the Google chatbots is working in hospitals now. And we're seeing a course that will be taught at Harvard University this fall that will be taught entirely by an AI professor. Well, teacher maybe. I don't know if it's a professor as such. So it's already seeping into our lives, and you're seeing a lot of government concern, both in the US and especially in Europe. And they're trying very hard to set sort of fail-safes so that AI doesn't get out of control. But we don't really know how to do that. Right. And so that's where we are now. We're kind of in this period where we think something bad could happen. We're not sure. Some people are saying it won't be so bad. Others are saying it will be. And we're kind of in this period of, holy mackerel, what do we do?
Well, there's some touch of thriller here. It's like, I mean, and to me, just the thought of it, I don't care if it's even good. My mind just goes towards the what ifs, like you were explaining here. If you're watching on YouTube, if you're watching on WRBL.com, Steve Bates and I are talking. My intern, Steve, I told you about, is coming in here. She's a job shadower from Brookstone. It's Sutton Hastings. She just actually came in. We're going to add a camera for her in just a moment. So if you saw me getting up doing stuff, I'm processing. I was using a little artificial intelligence to still listen to what you were saying and during our whole talk here. Hastings, we're talking about Castle of Sand. It's a sci-fi novel written by Washington Post Steve Bates, who is actually retired Washington Post journalist. So he takes his life and he takes some pretty interesting what's going on in the world today and puts it into a provoking kind of topic and book on this, artificial intelligence world, what could be and what's going to be happening. You intertwine a lot. There's a lot of themes in there you've been touching on. The fragility of our existence. You're a young lady. I mean, what about, and let me ask you this, since Hastings is here right now and she's listening to it, we'll get her up here. There she is right there. It's different for you and I don't know how, I think you and I are close in age. I'm late 50s. I was born in 65. What about her? I mean, what's her future going to be like? I mean, that's what do we need to be telling her, her generation, sci-fi or not, this part of this is a reality.
Yeah, one of the things I mentioned in my foreword to Castle of Sand was that when you sit down to try and write science fiction, all you're really doing is writing about facts that just haven't happened yet, because the things that occur are equal to, if not greater than, the things that we can imagine. Even the greatest minds in science and science fiction, some of whom have passed, unfortunately, would be astounded by what we're finding today. So, I mean, young people today are going to grow up in a world where increasingly, just for example, many scientists and mathematicians are saying, we have actual proof that additional universes exist, parallel, whatever you want to call them. They're there. There's mathematical and even some potential experimental evidence. So when you're dealing with this kind of mind-blowing stuff, and you're walking into a Starbucks or a Chipotle, and robots and AIs are preparing your beans, or they call it Autocavo. It's a machine that can take avocados, peel them, take out the pit in half the time that humans can. So that's just one of the latest things. It's going to be everywhere, Siri on your phone. And so you have to basically come to grips with it, because there's no avoiding it.
Yeah, and that's the scary part. How much of this, let me ask Hastings, you're hearing this, how much kids are talking about this? Do you consider that? Are you worried about it? Do you think about AI? Do you think about robots doing all the work for you? And then sometimes taking your voice. If you do any social media, do you do social media?
Not a lot.
Good mom and dad. I'll say that, okay? Because, by the way, just want to let you know, Hastings, you're what, 16, honey, or 17?
17.
17, okay, just making sure. But that's crazy. So what do you think of this?
I don't know. I personally think it's kind of nerve-wracking in a way, because I don't know what to make of it. I think the first time that I ever saw like an AI and really thought about it was just Siri. It's just something simple on your phone, but when you see how upgraded it's become and everything.
That's smart. Yeah, Steve has totally got, I mean, that's interesting you take that perspective.
It's concerning in a way.
What do you think your generation, what would you be concerned about most? I mean, just thinking, you're 17 years old, you're looking in the future. How do you think it could be good or bad?
Good efficiency, I guess. I mean, like, as you were saying, what is it, avocado?
Yeah, the avocado, the
avocado.
fruit. Yeah, it's a fruit, right, Steve? I think an avocado's a fruit, I think. But it's amazing now, as Steve points out, sci-fi is facts that just, they're there, but they haven't really happened yet. But this has happened. There's a machine that's capable of peeling an avocado and perfectly getting the pit out faster than a human could do it. And I'm going to tell you something. I've been in Cancun, Mexico, because I've been down there where they grow avocados like crazy all year round. They're beautiful, taste phenomenal. And I've seen the folks, some of the locals there doing it. I was impressed Steve, how fast they did it with a human hand. The guy cutting it, and squeeze the lime on it, and boom, he serves it, and it's like delicious. It takes me like, it feels like 15 minutes. So,
so yes, and to her point, there are some very good things that we're seeing and will see out of AI. And some people say it's not going to be a problem other than the same kind of disruption you saw during the Industrial Revolution when people got thrown out of jobs. The high-tech innovations of the past few decades, every time a job is eliminated, a new job, probably one with a greater level of skills required, but another one is created. So I think the challenge from the employment point of view is to find things that people can do that AIs maybe can't do or can't do well or need help with. We're already seeing some news organizations using AIs to write articles, routine articles out of the business world, analyzing a press release about a new product or service, merger, stock activity, even some sports. So it's here. We don't necessarily see it and feel it all the time, but we just have to make our peace with it.
Of course, I'm looking at the glass half empty right now because I'm thinking of the moral dilemmas here. You touch on that too. I mean, there's good stuff like you touch on it. The Industrial Revolution was a good thing. It really was. My dad was a tool and die maker, but now they're stamping out cars like it's nothing, right? You can go to we have the Kia plant up at West Point. It's not far from where I am right now. And, there's some good things with that, but you still need the human touch. Do you think humans would be completely removed from this, even in your sci-fi? But is there some truth to it? Do you think, is there going to be a point if we go in this, if we let this slippery slope continue, which it seems like it's already happening? How do you stop this train from going out of control?
As long as the AIs don't start throwing bombs at us and coming back in Terminator fashion and doing all those terrible things, we're going to learn to live with it. It's going to help in many ways take over some of the drudge work and leave, decades down the road, leave people to do more perhaps artistic and self-fulfilling things. So there is the potential for significant improvement in the lives of human beings in a few decades, if we can avoid the really negative stuff. And there's a lot of effort being put into that. But, the good old capitalist system, which is countries, pretty much what it is, will drive private entrepreneurs to take risks, take chances to make the best, most powerful, most effective AIs, so their competitors don't do it before them. Governments will get a hold of these things and use them in ways that may or may not be what we would like. So, privacy will be a major issue. Intrusion into personal lives will be a major issue, whether it's taking our pictures everywhere, eyeball, retina prints, all those sort of things. We can be tracked everywhere, but AIs are going to help us find new medicines.
Medically, it should be great. I mean, it's happening now with the way they use surgery.
They're already helping out in hospitals. They're going to do a lot more. So it's just, we're going to have to work with the good and the bad and try and level it out.
The good, as you just pointed out, I could see all that. What, just security, and you hear about if these third world nations, there's been rumor that China's, taking TikTok and they're taking Hastings' voice, my daughter's voice, or taking my voice or somebody's voice, and they can simulate that. Do you see that ever being something where they're going to get in and it's going to be able to? I mean, they already have the apps like that. That's true. It's scary, but if you ever search on an app store, they have the President of the United States voice, and it sounds like, and he's saying things. You can say it, and it sounds like him saying it. I mean,
yes.
Is this? That's already there. Are they capturing our voices now? Is there any? How do you stop that? I mean, because everyone's doing social media. I mean, all our parents would have to say right away, kids stop. I mean, you would have to be under a rock now. I mean, I think there's almost like, where would that go? Where's your concern on that level?
I have a lot of concern about deep fakes, about the ability to make.
That's what they call deep fakes. Okay.
That are convincing, that make it look like, former President Trump is being taken off to jail in handcuffs, that sort of thing.
Sure.
And that actually is pretty tame compared with what could happen. It's going to be very difficult for the individual, let alone the general news media and social media to weed out these things. And we're just going to have to be on our guard every minute of every day for things that are not true. I mean, I don't know how many spam texts and phone calls every day. Someone's decided that I've got a business and they've got a loan for me, and I hear from them all the time.
Sure.
So, I mean, most of the time, these are machines, these are AIs placing the calls. So we're already seeing that part. If we can just get enough balance where the benefits, AIs can help us clean up the climate across the planet.
Sure.
They can do a lot of things if we get them doing what we want them to do. And that piece of control is one that has been talked a lot about. I mean, even if you go back decades to the writings of Isaac Asimov, whose Foundation series, by the way, is coming back in, I think, the second season starting this weekend. Yeah. I mean, even back then, Asimov, created these 3 laws of robotics to try and protect humans from robots. And, people attacked them and said they're not good enough and, it's just fantasy. But the principles therein, robots can't hurt people, they can't hurt humanity in general. They're pretty sound. If we could somehow incorporate that into our development of AIs, maybe we'll have a partnership.
Yeah, and I think you touched on something. It's finding that balance, as you just said. So as much as maybe people are doing the dirty deeds, the evildoers out there, the Joker, doing stuff, but yet you got Batman and Robin on the other side counteracting it. So hopefully the good could prevail in this to some degree, but I mean, despite all that's going on. I got to ask you this. Hastings, did you have anything? I mean, you look like your wheels are turning. Is there something you want to add in there? Don't be afraid. This is your chance to jump in. What do you think? Just hearing all this, what do you make of it?
I mean, it's a complicated subject. Like, the wheels are definitely turning right now.
Yeah. So you're absorbing like the sponge now. You're taking it all in, which is good. So you are a computer, you know that. You're maybe she's part of AI here, Steve.
I mean,
so
you do have 2.5 petabytes of memory.
Whoa. Look at this. This is why I had her come on the podcast. Did you hear that? We have what is that again? Say it again.
Petabytes.
Did you know that, Steve? I did not know that.
No, I did not.
We have to have a 17-year-old tell us this. That's why she attends one of the most elite schools here in Columbus, Georgia. There's no doubt she's a smart young lady. That's good. Well, I learned something today. That's great. But on that note, and the petabytes in your head and everything else, I mean, this is something to go back in our memory banks a little bit. Steve, I don't know. I don't want to ask your age, and you don't feel comfortable telling me. But how much do you remember Watergate?
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
I was just actually starting to get into the news business when that happened.
Okay, you don't look your age. How's that? There you go. So that's good. Yeah, I grew up in New York, Western New York, and when I got my first TV job, I went to Binghamton, New York, and I had the privilege of working with a guy. He's still in the business. He's in Seattle, Washington now. He's a morning anchor. Was a big sports guy. His dad worked for Sports Illustrated, SI instead of AI, and he worked for SI. Good big writer. His name was Martin Dardis. Okay. And I didn't know enough about it, but as I was learning about his son, Mike, and Martin has passed away, he told me that he was like, geez, Bob, my life as a child was terrible. I lived in Miami. We were picked up. The FBI agents would come in and move. And I'm like, hearing these stories, I go, what in the heck is he talking about, right? So I go to his house. I was invited to his house in Binghamton, New York, is where his dad lived and his mom where they resided at that time. And I look on the wall, and I'm seeing pictures of, like, Nixon. I see pictures of this, and I'm not even putting two and two together. And I go, well, how's this? He goes, Bob, I told you, my dad is Martin Dardis. He was the one. He was part of finding the bad checks that were written down in Miami. I go, get out of town. And I started talking to his dad. I did not know. Did a little more investigation. Not as good as I would at the Washington Post, but you guys had a big hand on that. So, and then they developed a show out of it. You saw it, the janitors. It's called the. Is that on HBO Max? I think it's on HBO Max. It's.
White House Plumbers.
Thank you. You're faster than I am.
Fabulous show.
Fabulous. I only saw the preview. I got one episode in. It's been a while. I got to jump back into it. I got to dive into it because HBO, I got to do some renewal stuff. But I love the concept. How much is that real versus what that the movie does it? Now, this is after the fact of what happened with the president. I mean, today's world, how easy could that have been caught earlier? Or do you think with the media, could it ever gone that far with Nixon?
Well, yeah, in today's world, we would have had much more cybersecurity, much more just camera presence around these buildings. Might be easier to get fingerprints off of smudgy tabletops, that sort of thing, if the gloves weren't on when they should have been. I mean, it's hard to say exactly what would have happened, but here's another way to look at it. Could it have been staged as, could it have been a deep fake? Could it have been, absolutely not what it appeared to be? And you could have all these government officials, investigating and then turning beet red when they found out that they've been, hoaxed. So, I think that kind of thing probably wouldn't happen, at least as crudely as it did, just because we're in a world where privacy is far reduced. We almost assume that everywhere we go and everything we do, someone knows about it. I mean, my cell phone, I'm saving money on my insurance because I've got this app on my cell phone, and sure. I know they know where I am all the time. Stories like that. I mean, I'm as an longtime journalist, and as you know, you kind of think that it would come out eventually.
Yeah.
People will talk, but
it's like Mar-a-Lago with President Trump. Look how quick, the FBI. I mean, there's, without getting into the politics of that, but you just think about how everybody knows about. I mean, it's around the dinner table that quickly. I mean, Watergate just felt like it was just, kind of easy. You didn't really understand it. Years later, you started seeing more stories about it. Whether you're, Nixon supporter, conservative, and whatever, but you would have never suspected that kind of play going on and cover up and took good journalists like yourself and guys at the Post and doing their things too. So Dustin Hoffman, great seeing that movie. He did a great job. Great job.
It's Carl Bernstein.
Yeah, Bernstein too was phenomenal. Okay, so getting back on this. So Hastings is looking to Castle of Sand. Who would it appeal to? Who should read this book now?
I guess the people who are so absolutely sure that our civilization and our species will just continue to thrive, expand, raise levels of income and education around the planet. Maybe we'll go out into the stars and colonize all over the place, that humanity is just unstoppable. Because anything can happen and a lot of bad things could happen. Look at all the great civilizations we've had, ancient Egypt, Rome,
sure.
So many others. They all thought they would last forever. They all failed. Today, we've got AI coming. We have nuclear proliferation. We have climate change. We have, AI potentially, taking over some parts of our lives. There's no guarantee that we're going to stick around. My book, Castle of Sand, deals with the what if. What if the worst happens? Okay. The very worst. Somebody unleashes a pathogen on our planet that they think will help them win a war, but actually will be unstoppable and kill everyone. So you've got this ark that's been under construction in orbit for many years, behind on schedule, behind budget. Not everything is, built and ready to go. And all of a sudden it's like, just blast it off and hope that they can, get enough people somewhere to start again. And that's what happens. They go off and they find a planet and they try to start again. They find that the humans there are our own worst enemies, however. Yeah.
This isn't Mars either, just so folks know. It's not us going to Mars. This is like, you went into something totally different. Fascinating stuff. I mean, it makes you think a lot. Even the young kids. Does that tempt you? Be totally. I mean, Haynes, Sutton, you're pretty honest here. Would you want to read that? Does that fascinate you?
It does sound interesting.
Yeah. I think it would be something that you'd want to explore and just try to understand it more, maybe even probe deeper. My thing is that we have a duty, so to speak, to let our kids kind of know a little bit about this. I think know what's happening. Be a little bit more conservative in your way of giving information out there. But if you do it appropriately and know if something that's been checked out. What you put out there could be out there for a long time. Images, whatever, God only knows what. Could be a deep fake of you and I right now, Steve, talking about, conspiring to take over the, the White House, and we didn't do a darn thing. It's I'm not saying we get to that, and hopefully there's enough checks and balances. Something could be intercepted at the right time. I mean, at the time of this podcast, Kim Jong-un is launching missiles in the Sea of Japan, and, here we go again, and, flexing a little muscle. So there's, our world is at Sodom and Gomorrah again, for those out there, looking at it in a space like that. And as you say, could this be, edging on those times? I don't know, but, we'll soon find out. But through the book, as we sit here, Steve Bates, phenomenal. You couldn't ask for anybody better, from the Washington Post, former. I think once you've always been an editor and, journalist, and you're somebody who just is always that good reporter. I'm sure you got so much interesting stuff. Love to talk to you just about your career. I mean, that's a whole nother topic too. But catch it, because Steve's going to interject a lot of his world experience in this, and taking facts and taking things that could potentially become real and come to fruition. So we'll be focused on that and seeing it. A lot of boundaries, challenges, and assumptions, and you're going to be sparking new conversations like we are here around the water cooler. And this Maria Ramos, I'm going to say, and in this, who why are you seeing this through the eyes of her? Who is this person that you came up with? Why her? And that's
she's like she could be any of us.
Okay.
She's a soccer mom. She has a part-time job. She lives in Columbia, Maryland, which is, like a planned suburb between Baltimore and Washington, D.C. She just stumbles into, literally collides with this man who's in charge of the ARC project, and he accidentally bumps her with his car while he's trying to get to the spaceport at Wallops Island in eastern shore of Virginia. Puts her in the car, her son comes along. All of a sudden, they're in the spaceport. Everyone's just panicked to get into this space plane, to get up into orbit so that they can go from there and launch the Ark, an actual spaceship that can reach distant planets by basically tricking physics to allow it to go faster than light. So Maria Ramos is just caught up in something bigger than her. But, she, for all the problems and issues and pressures on her to sort of be the point person who works with an AI to somehow get a bunch of frozen cells of passengers who died on the way, to actually grow humans and create a new colony and population there, despite, her being, kind of, woe is me, what is this all about, and why was I stuck with this? She finds that spark, that innate piece of us inside of her, to do something for more than just herself, to do something for her species, and just because it's the right thing to do. It's not easy by any means, but she just sticks with it, and she inspires us because, again, she could be any of us.
So it goes from a bit of apocalyptic to something really good, as she kind of finds the silver lining, almost, it seems like.
She does.
Yeah. So I like that thought, and here's the other thing. Someone's going to be starring in this movie someday. What would you do if Spielberg came to you tomorrow and said, "Hey, look, Steve, I'd love to make a movie on this. Would you be willing to sell the rights, or could you see this?" They always say the book is better than the movie, but could you see a movie on this?
I absolutely could.
That's good. So your intention is right there. That's good.
Yeah.
I can't wait to see the movie, and I can say I talked to the guy who wrote this, and you too. Look at that, Sutton Hastings. Would you make that? Would you love that? Would you go see it? The movie. Who would star in it, though? Have you thought that far? Would you see the characters?
I had a few thoughts. Yeah.
You don't want to share them yet?
Well, I better not. I might get sued. But there's plenty of people.
Well, you didn't know this, but I have a camera behind you, and I see all your notes, so I can find out with the AI. No, I wouldn't do that to you. We got to respect the privacy. There you go. Steve, I appreciate everything you've done. Thanks for the journals you did. You did some great stuff in your career. I know you have. And keeping people on their toes, keeping politicians honest and all that good stuff. Steve Bates, extraordinary guy here. And I hope that all of you can check it out. Castle of Sand is exceptional, timely kind of literary work. And again, it could be yours right on the table tomorrow. We hope we could do that. Think about it. A lot of truth to this stuff. Either it's happening and will be happening. And I can't wait to catch that, too. I'm going to be checking it out. So, again, thanks for catching us on YouTube. You can catch us on right here at WRBL.com. And you can also catch us on Spotify, iHeart, and, of course, Audible, Apple, wherever you get your podcast. By golly, it's there. On Instagram and Facebook, I'm there as well. We'll show you some snippets of Steve and Sutton here, too. My extraordinary that we learned something today. Say it again, Sutton. What was that thing called in your brain? What's it called? What's it called again?
It's called petabytes.
Petabytes. And how many do we have in our brain?
2.
2 petabytes. That's it? AI has a lot more than that. I can guarantee they could duplicate it in 50 times. But the human brain might be better yet. We'll keep it around. We'll keep it around for all. We still need the human touch, Steve. Okay, we'll talk to you next week. And by the way, it's On the Road with Bob Jeswald coming up in mid-August. Steve is our last in-house podcast, believe it or not, Steve. So it's going to be on the road. I'm going to be doing it through a TV program, a half hour on WRBL.com. Sometime in mid-August, we'll announce that. And it'll be just used the same way. So we'd probably have you back, but you'd be on the big screen in the studio. So it's we're going to take a little hiatus for a couple weeks if you're watching this podcast. And appreciate everybody. And, hey, AI to all. Take care.